The interview with National Security Advisor O'Brien will be posted over at HughHewitt.com. Coming up next hour, Attorney General William Barr joins me right now, though. I'm pleased to welcome back retired Lieutenant General William Boykin. General Boykin is the founder of Kingdom Warriors. He is the Executive Vice President of the Family Research Council. You know, Jerry Boykin is a founding member and former commander of Delta Force. He serves 36 years in the United States Army. He and his wife, Ashley, have 5 children. They live in Virginia. His brand new book is Man to Man, Rediscovering Masculinity in a Challenging World. I just tweeted out Man to Man, Rediscovering Masculinity in a Challenging World. And General Boykin, welcome. It's good to have you back.
Thank you very much, Hugh. It's good to be with you.
You know, when you read a book like me, and I've done thousands of these interviews, there are a few questions you got to ask. I got to start with number 2. The first one is found on page 66. Quote, "A lot of people won't remember I had a 36-year military career. They won't know I worked with the Family Research Council or spoke at hundreds of churches and conferences. They will know me almost entirely through the character of my children." That is arresting. Stopped it and thought about it myself, General, and I think you're right about this. What's the implication of that?
Well, you know, we should all be concerned about our legacy, and that legacy is reflected in your children and even your grandchildren. And, you know, when my sons and I sit around the campfire at deer camp or down on the river fishing, we always wind up talking about my dad because he left quite a legacy. And that's exactly what I hope is going to happen with my grandsons. They're going to sit around that fire someday, and they're going to tell pop stories, just like my brother and I and my sons have done. So our legacy is reflected in those offspring, the next generation, and that's what we should be thinking about.
You know, General Boykin, when I was reading about Cecil early in the book, your father, Cecil, he came to the faith in Christ late in life. How did that happen?
Well, I took him to a Promise Keepers. He loved E.V. Hill, and he knew the Bible quite well, and I took him to a Promise Keepers, and when they gave the invitation, he surrendered his life to Christ. And from that point on, as I say in the book, he was so radical, it was like he was trying to make up for the years that he had lost, and he actually reached a point when he was hospitalized in his last few months that the chaplain wouldn't come to his room because he was...
that's in the book.
He was preaching to the chaplain there.
Well, I love the story of Cecil, your father. What happened to Shakif? I lost the thread in the book.
Well, he's still in New Bern, North Carolina, and a good man, and he grew up to be really, I think, in many ways, what we just talked about, a legacy of the values that were instilled in him by my dad.
Well, the note I made is there's an amazing parallel between your father's interest in Shakif, who is not his natural son, and your interest in Ashley's son before you knew Ashley,
right,
which led you to your wife. Is there not an amazing parallel there, General Boykin?
There is an amazing parallel there, and for those who haven't read the book, Shakif was a young boy, 12 years old, and after all of my siblings and I were out of the home and had our own families, my dad took in Shakif, and Shakif actually lived with my mom and dad for about a year. But Shakif was, as far as my dad was concerned, that was his son. The problem was many of my dad's friends objected because Shakif was a black boy. And, of course, my dad's response to all of that, as I say in the book, was, you know, mind your own damn business. Because he knew that the worst thing that could happen to a young boy was to grow up without a man in his life, a man that could guide him along the path to developing the proper values that were going to take him through life. And then I had exactly the same experience when I moved into Washington my first time in the Pentagon, and it was a young boy that didn't have a father just 2 doors down from me, and today he's my son. My stepson, but he's my son.
It's a remarkable story and a remarkable generation. I thought of the book of Ruth, whither thou goest, I will go, and whither thou lodgest, I will lodge. So you followed in your footsteps of your father, Cecil. That's worth reading Man to Man for alone. But I want to get to my second major point. Like Admiral Stavridis, a frequent guest, like General Mattis, a frequent guest, like every general officer I've ever met, you are a reader and you preach reading, and there is a line at page 63. If computer games are robbing you of reading time, just stop that foolish nonsense. Boy, if I could tattoo that on the arms of every young man out there in America, I would do so.
You know, Hugh, it's a tragedy in my view that that men are not reading, and that Americans are not reading for that matter. Only 24%, based on surveys, 24% read for knowledge. You know, and too many of them sit around playing these computer games and doing things that absolutely contribute nothing to their growth or to their knowledge, their understanding of the world that we live in, or the things that are happening in the world around us. And here's what's really tragic, Hugh. We don't teach history in the public schools anymore. And what we do teach is frequently an altered history. It focuses on the wrong things. And I think that men should make it a point to read two things. One is the Bible, and the other is American history. And start with the founding of this nation, knowing who these founding fathers are and what their intentions were. And there are lots of good books. And David Barton, of course, is one of the finest historians, and he's got a lot of books out that will help you to understand how we got to where we are today, but especially what our founding fathers intended this nation to be and how God breathed life into this nation through these founding fathers.
You know, the books that I have read, General Boykin, in addition to your new Man-to-Man in recent weeks, have been Citizen Soldiers by Stephen Ambrose and Eric Larson's new book on Churchill, The Splendid and the Vile, because I believe the time we are going through right now is not unlike Great Britain in 1940. It is not bombs falling, it is deaths falling everywhere, and it is a disaster and carnage everywhere. But, you know, when you read Citizen Soldiers and when you read The Splendid and the Vile, you realize that free people can get through these things.
Well, that's exactly right. And listen, we are paying a heavy price right now, and I don't think it's worth getting into the debate of whether this was a deliberate attack by China or whether it was at best malfeasance on their behalf. But that said, the consequences are the same either way. Now, what we have to do is we have to look back again historically at the rough times that America has been through, at the devastations that we have seen, and we've come through those things because we pulled together and because we actually had leadership. And quite frankly, I think we have leadership at multiple levels in this country today that can get us through this if they don't have to fight other leaders within our government, within our Congress, and across the country, governors and so forth. If they'll pull together, we will get through this. We'll come out on the other side. We need to understand that we're going to bounce back. It's going to be painful, and it already has been, but we're going to bounce back.
I'm talking with General Jerry Boykin about his brand new book, Man to Man, Rediscovering Masculinity in a Challenging World. It's perfect for men's group, for Bible study. There are also chapters addressing women who are reading it along with their husbands. I want to turn to Yale and Stu, if I can, General, because I think battle buddies, as you call them, are so vital. I'm blessed with a few. I've always been blessed with a few. From the time I can remember, I've always had 2 or 3 or 4 people to whom I can turn at any moment and talk at great length about anything, no matter where they are. It seems to me, and your 2 are not military guys. That surprised me. Would you explain, Yale and Stu, and what your message in this chapter of Man to Man is?
Yeah, so a man is supposed to be a battle buddy, and he's supposed to have a battle buddy. That's ordained. That's the same concept of Joshua and Caleb. They were battle buddies, but Stu Weber, a Green Beret in Vietnam, and a guy that founded a big church out in Oregon when he got back from Vietnam, became my battle buddy. It's a long story as to how I wound up really getting involved with my wife now. I met her and began to mentor her son because of something that Stu wrote in his book, and we have become battle buddies. That means that I can call him any time of the day or night, and I can express my fears, my concerns. he can do the same with me. And I know that when I am struggling, I know that he's going to be praying for me. He's not going to compromise me. And then Yale King in Denver, Colorado, never spent a day in the military. And that he was one of the original founders of Dollar Rental Car. Yale is a guy that I just met by happenstance. He was contributing to a memorial fund for the widows and children of fallen comrades in the Delta Force. And I just met him one time, and we immediately were drawn to each other. And over a period of time, we've developed exactly the same kind of relationship I have with with Stu Weber. He is my battle buddy. I call him, just like I do Stu. When I'm puzzled, I'm confused, I need their advice, they do the same with me. And a man needs that kind of relationship with another man. The Bible says in Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpeneth another. Well, that's the whole concept of the battle buddy. You need a man in your life that will not compromise what you tell him, that will be there when you need him, that will understand, and he will accept you with all your foibles. He will accept you because he knows that he's got the same foibles that you do.
You know, my buddy Botkin, who you know, is one of my friends in that category, and I'm blessed that he brought us together, but I want to make sure that I close with something he has done and you do, and which I think can change some lives. You tell men, in this age of fatherless boys, it is incumbent upon them to find such a lad in their life, not related to them, and assume the role of dad, because it's a crisis for every young man without a dad.
Yeah, you don't have to look very far to find a young boy that needs a man in his life. I'm not saying that you need to adopt him. I'm saying you need to become a mentor for him. I'm saying that you need to invest in him. You see, that's an investment that has long-term rewards, is investing in a young man and helping get him on the right track, helping instill in him the kind of values that are going to take him through life and make him productive and effective in our society. So, yes, that's exactly what I tell men whenever I speak to men, but it's also what I put in the book there. Find some young lad that you can mentor. Find a young man that is already an adult, but he needs the wisdom. I just did a Zoom on yesterday with a young man that's going into the Green Berets, and he wanted me to mentor him. He wanted me to provide him with some advice and kind of hang with him as he goes through this training and all. And I spent about an hour with him yesterday. I intend to be doing that on a routine basis now because that is the kind of relationship that we need to have with those that are coming along behind us, the next generation. They need the value of our wisdom and our experience, much of which was gained through some really bad decisions or some hard knocks.
General Boykin, Man to Man, Rediscovering Masculinity. I've tweeted it out. I think everyone ought to listen to it, read it, get it, have it in their small group, and I appreciate the time you've given me this morning. Thank you for those 36 years and all the different battles you fought and the ones you continue to fight, General. It's a great honor to have you on.
Well, Hugh, you're a great American, and thank you very much for today.
Thank you, my friend. Let me also say, ReliefFactor.com made it possible for me to have the General today because they sponsored the segment. Don't forget to go out. When I do my 8 miles today, maybe I'll run into the General or not. He's out there traveling as much. Coming up, another person like General Boykin, Senator Tom Cotton. People who've been places I've never been, but who talk to me, so stay tuned.